Today's webinar is hosted by Women in Manufacturing. WIM is a national trade association that encourages the engagement of women who have chosen a career in the manufacturing industry. The association supports a network of more than 3,700 individuals for more than 900 companies. Our webinar presenter today is R.C. Caldwell. He has over 30 years of management, engineering, and manufacturing experience from Johnson & Johnson, General Motors, Goodrich Aerospace, Cintas, and Sinclair Community College in the U.S., Europe, Mexico, Canada, and China. His expertise is in assisting and guiding companies with the transformation of their organization to world-class excellence through product innovation, Lean Six Sigma improvements, and self-directed teams for superior products and services. RC is a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, Six Sigma Black Belt, and Lean Sensei. He has a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from the University of Cincinnati and a Master of Science in Engineering from the Wright State University. Please join me in welcoming RC. I'm going to convert the presentation to RC, so give us just a moment here. All right, RC, take it away for us.
Thanks, Stacy. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to present to you team-based decision-making and execution. Our agenda for today is, first we're going to start with the types of general business decision-making. Then we're going to focus on team-based decision-making. And we're going to focus on team-based execution. And then I'm going to give you a little insight to timing in team business decision-making. And then from there, I have a case study. It's an actual case study of a medical generator that actually generates power to minimally invasive surgical equipment. And we launched this new generator, and our supplier was having problems meeting the day-to-day demands. And we sent a team out there and quickly increased their output. So it's going to be a good case study to show how decision-making, team-based decision-making, and execution actually occur in the field. So let's start with the types. The first type is command decision-making, where leaders make decisions without consulting their team. Primarily used and mainly used in the military. It can be used in team-based organizations, but it should be used on a very limited basis because it can destroy your team-based culture. And you're trying to have a team-based culture so you can have high performance. Another type of decision-making is consensus-based decision-making, where teams actually vote on a decision, and the majority determines the final decision. This is best used when your company is trying to decide on a social activity or a community support activity. That way, you get the majority. If they approve it, then you'll get majority participation. And in a case like that, you definitely want as many participating as possible. The next one is just do it. Now, just do it is where you or your team have authority, and the answer is obvious, or is just part of your regular job description. So just do it decision is mostly like 90% of your daily activity. You can have just do it activities that occur in a brainstorming session where you come up with a good suggestion, and it's obvious to everybody that we should apply this, and you put it in place and put standard data around it, and go from there. So that's one that we won't talk a lot about. We're going to focus on team-based decision making, where the leaders request feedback, input, data analysis, information, test results from their team members, from subject matter experts, and from other leaders. And they make their approvals sometimes, or sometimes they leave it to the team to make their approval. And this creates a positive atmosphere. And the positive atmosphere is what you want. And you want to develop this culture. And now what I want to do is give you some characteristics of what is called like a world-class team-based decision-making atmosphere. And it starts with the leadership. Leadership must respect their team members. They must make sure that they're open and honest. And they must share in the decision-making process, like I said before. And in some cases, they got to give up that decision-making process. So that way, people can be more engaged. In order to do that, you have to utilize facts, data, information. You got to take a more holistic approach. And it boils down to the basic concept of two heads are better than one. So if you can imagine a team that is functionally diverse, where you have a member of the team is from accounting, a member of the team is from marketing, you got an engineer, you got a plant operator, you got a supervisor, and they're working on a problem, a quality problem from the field. And the marketing person come up with a potential solution that nobody else thought about. But what happens in that dynamic is everybody learns something from that endeavor, from that marketing input, okay? It could be as simple as learning exactly what the customer wants that nobody knew about before. And what that does is that grows your team and gives you better results. And that's what you're trying to achieve, is better results. And you're creating, by having these cross-functional teams working together on all these improvement projects, you're growing, you're learning more, and your people are becoming high performance, where you can have a high performance workplace. And that's typically what happens, because to get to the next level, anytime you make improvements, to improve, you got to learn something new to make that next improvement. And that's where it creates that atmosphere of a learning environment and a high-performance workforce. And then the last thing it does is it makes your people more engaged. And the way it makes it happier is think about a time when you provided input to a team project, and the team listened to it and adapted it, and then gave you an attaboy for it. That it made you feel good. And it makes any individual feel good. It's human nature. So that's how you create that culture, okay? Now, there's another aspect that you have to be in tune with and aware of, is there's levels of team-based decision-making. First, there's a frontline level, where you have your operators, your inspectors, your material movers, your shipping people. They're on the front line, and they have a team dynamic. Then you have a support team. In the plant, it may be a plant engineer, it may be a supervisor, it could be a general manager, it can be a quality engineer. Those are your plant support team. And then the global companies or international companies that have a corporate staff have an enterprise level. And this enterprise level, they have people on there that cover 2 or 3 plants. They may have a black belt that's an enterprise level and go in and help the plants, that type of thing. And then you have the third level is the executive team, where your CEO, CFO, vice president. Now, all three of these, there's dynamics between them, and there's dynamics within them. And you got to get all three of them going in the same direction. And that'll bring us to what's the foundation to this team-based execution. So the foundation starts with the company core values or guiding principles. Now, most companies have core values, and they're out there on their website, so that's okay. At least one of your core values needs to inspire high performance for your customer. It must inspire your team members and your associates to inspire to help the customer, because that's vital. The reason why that's vital is because your company's key performance indicators should be aligned to their core value, all your core values, and it also should align specifically to your customer support core values. Okay, and let me give you an example of what I mean by alignment. I've been to a number of companies and I've asked the question, do you have on-time delivery? They'll say, yeah, we have on-time delivery, and we track it. And we're getting 98% on-time delivery. Then I ask them, where do you chart your on-time delivery? At what spot? And they said, it starts at our dock. At our dock, when we ship it out on time from our dock, that's on-time delivery. Well, that's not a customer-driven. I mean, even though at your dock is where you get your pay start, that's not a customer-driven on-time delivery. The measure should be at the customer's receiving dock, and you should be measuring how they feel that if you're on time or not. Same thing with quality numbers. It's okay to have plant-wide quality numbers, and that's vital, but you also should have quality numbers from your customers receiving an inspection. Okay? So once you've done that, then your leadership should put in their goals and objectives and in their appraisal plan those companies' KPIs. Now you have a connection of your KPIs with core values. You have KPIs with your customers. You got KPIs in your leaderships. And that's the foundation to putting those alignments with the team and cascading them down to all the team. So everybody is on the same page. And you go to the extent where the performance appraisal of the line people have, if I'm shipping this part and it's going to 100%, supposed to be at quality, and then everything I come off this line should be 100%. Okay, to that level of detail. I can remember when I worked at one of the world-class companies where, my performance appraisal, I had a global team. The global team, every one of their objectives and goals came from mine, and it was aligned. So if they did not make theirs, I didn't make my goals. And my supervisor, I got cascaded down from his. So if I didn't make mine and people that reported to him didn't make it, then he didn't make it. So that's the type of connection you want. The next thing you need is a team-based communication schedule, because communication and team-based organization and the ones that are effective are the ones that communicate, okay, and communicate it properly. And we'll go through that in more detail in the next slides. And the next thing you need is a systematic execution process, and we're going to go through that in detail in the next couple of slides. And then the last thing is you got to utilize Lean Six Sigma tools and techniques. And the reason why I say that, because they're used in many different industries and have been effective throughout many decades, and they're proven techniques, and they will help you get you that answer the correct answer the right way, and they're very objective. So let's talk about the communication. We mentioned that. But here's a rough outline of the frontline team. The frontline team should meet daily, and some people call them huddles, have daily huddles, and they should talk about daily decisions. They should talk about things like quality and how we can keep it improved. And then you should also bring, like if you get something from your customers that says, okay, we received this product and it was on time and it was 100% right, you should bring that to your daily team, because what that does is close that loop for them on products that they made, and it makes them feel good that they got that good information. And when you don't get good information, if you get some feedback where there was something that was defective, bring that back too and say, hey, how can we do this where we won't make this mistake? It's not who, it's why. And then you start asking them, why did it happen? And how can we define whys, and how can we figure out how to eliminate that problem and not have it happen to another customer? That's closing the loop. That's also bringing the team involved, and that's bringing that connection. And also your frontline people work on projects where needed, because especially when it affects them, because you want their process ownership. The next level is your support team. They should have weekly meetings within their team. Some of them should be in the daily meetings, the ones like the supervisor, engineers that support a particular line, and they want to make sure that they know what's going on and everything is working. They may attend the daily meetings with the line people. And then they're going to definitely be on projects that affect them or they have input to. And they may even lead projects. And then the next group is your executive team. Your executive teams are mostly going to be sponsors of projects. They're going to meet weekly with their own direct reports, which is normal. They're going to have monthly progress reports with teams that are working on projects that are applicable to them. Plus, they're going to have monthly reports from their functional areas that they're going to take care of. And then they're going to lead quarterly plant reviews with the entire workforce, or in some cases with their division. Just depends on how big the organization. But what this does is it links that frontline team and that executive team with communication, right? And you cannot over communicate in this situation. It's better to have employees say, man, they tell us so much, than having, I didn't hear about that. And that's when balls get dropped, things get dropped. And so communication is very, very important. The next thing is a systematic execution process step for continuous improvement and problem solving. And this is the project management system. Now, Toyota uses the A3 process. Ford uses 8D process. Edward Deming brought in the plan, do, check, act, which a lot of lean companies, the people that apply lean use. And we're going to talk about the DMAIC. The DMAIC is design. They have design, measure, analyze, improve, implement, and control. The design phase is all it is defining the problem thoroughly. Okay? The measure phase, what you do with measure is you want the current state of whatever that problem is or whatever that situation is. You want to make sure you collect enough data, enough understanding that you understand the current state. In the analyze phase is you want to use whatever Lean Six Sigma tools or whatever tool or technique that allow you to get the correct answer. Number one, determine what the root cause is and determine what the solution is and the best solution. So whatever tools you need to do in the analyze phase to achieve that, to give you a permanent solution. And if you need a short-term solution in there, that's okay too. And because sometimes the long-term permanent solution takes time, okay? So sometimes you need two. From there, you put an improvement plan together, and then you implement your improvement plan. Once you implement your improvement plan, you need a control phase, and that control phase is for capturing those insignificant variables, those variables that you can't analyze, or you may not, they were so insignificant you thought at the time they might pop up every once in a while. So you want that control phase to capture that. And the reason why you want to do that is because, if you have a problem or if they pop up, then you can design a plan to deal with that, and then you can continue down the path of improvement. I've seen sometimes when people don't have an adequate control plan, and what happens is something go awry and something comes different than they anticipate, and everybody want to go back to the old way, and they want to regress backwards. And that's what you don't want. That's why the control plan is, the control phase is very, very important. This slide is a busy slide, but I did want you to see all the tools within Lean Six Sigma that you have available under the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. But you don't necessarily have to use them in that order. You use them when you need them. You use them to solve your problem or the situation or make improvements and to get you the correct answer and move forward. Now, here's a document that's key to this process is a project charter. And the reason why this document is so important is because it keeps everybody on the same page. Now, can you imagine, I've had international projects where I work with people from Europe and United States on the same project, and we use this document along with other documents, but we always started with our project charter so everybody will know where we started. And I'll go through this so you'll know what all the pieces are. First, there's a project charter title. There's project sponsor. We'll talk about that with the roles and responsibility later. There's project leaders. Then there's a problem statement. And the problem statement is where is the pain, describing the pain, okay, your worst case scenario. Whatever it is, you want to put it down, or it might be an opportunity. You want to put it down, you want to state it in this problem statement. Next is the goals. The goals should relieve the pain, okay? It should be SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. Next is your project scope. It's very important to scope it out properly because you don't want to scope this too large because it's unresolvable or it'll go on forever. And you don't want it too narrow because you're going to miss something. So you want to make sure you scope it out correctly. And I'll show you in the case study. We'll see with that. Potential benefits or risks. If there are risks associated with this project, you should show that here. Or if there's potential benefits, you should show here too. And then another feature is the milestone, showing an overall perspective of the timing and the owner and the design phase when it's going to be planned, completed, and also you keep track of when it actually completed. So this is a good document to show upper management real quickly where you are, what's all involved in your project, what's the problem, what's the goal. Real good document for that. So from there, you have to put together your team, okay? So you have your team, you have your project leader, you have your sponsor, you have your core team members, subject matter expert, you have your extended team members, okay? And in this case, I show you an example of a raw material. You may have somebody downstream that you add in there that's not in your company, okay? That's a doable situation too. I have plenty of those. But let's talk about the roles and responsibilities. Your project sponsor main role and responsibility is to break down barriers. break down barriers, and make sure the project moves forward. Okay, so you got to have someone that's high in the organization able to do that. You also are going to provide guidance when needed. And then you're going to have your project leader. Now, the project leader, that's the person that set things up. One of the things that a project leader should do is to let the people know that this is the project. The way we're going to run this project is like sports. We're going to have people on the field sometime. We may have it really like football or basketball. Sometimes you're on the court, sometimes you're on the field, and sometimes you're on the bench. Okay? Because you want to tell people, and I always used to do this, we don't want to take up a lot of your time. We want it to be productive time working on the project. Anytime they work on the project, we want them to give 100%. So it's just like sports. The rest of the time, go on the bench and work on your day-to-day tasks. But when you come to us and you're working on our project, give us 100% and then move on, okay? And you want your meetings like that. Your meetings are called when there's a need and when you have to come together, okay? So that's the project leader's responsibility. Subject matter experts are people that have technical capability or business capabilities that are unique or specialized in a certain area and needs to be brought in to the team for their, it could be a scientist, it could be a specialized engineer, it could be a design engineer, it could be a technician. It just depends on what the project is. And then your core team members are mostly process owners of this particular problem or process people that impact that process. And then your extended team members are people that's upstream or downstream of the project. And the reason why you get them involved is because it may impact them and they should be aware of the changes, or you may need their input. So that's important. And that way you get that more holistic answer. And because if you ever had a project where somebody made a change and then downstream, you were up or downstream, and it affected you and you didn't hear about it, you're like, what's going on? Okay, so you don't want to self-optimize. You want that value stream all the way to make sure when you put this new approach in, this improved approach, it works up and downstream. Now, this is another eye chart, but this eye chart is only once you get your plan, you want to expand out your plan. This is a Gantt chart, just an example of a Gantt chart. But I just want to show you how the design phase fit in, okay, to all the details, and the measure phase and all the rest of them are the same way. Okay, so your plan is expanded out, but on that project charter, you're only showing a summary of the details. Now, up until this point, I've showed you all manual documentation. There's all kind of systems out there, individual systems, but I wanted to show the enterprise system for those that's on the phone, on this webinar that has global or national organization. There are cloud-based software project management system that allows you to put project charters on there, put manpower of what team members make you have an opportunity to make pie charts and bar graphs like it's shown here, and you can keep all your projects together. If you're working on a project in the U.S. and it affects Europe or South America or Asia, everybody can see it. It's in one location. Everybody can put input on it. So that's a good feature of, trying to be a world-class company where you're communicating and you're effectively communicating in one system and everybody's on board, and it just fits in your organization, makes it a lot better, more productive. Another communication and data place is your plant production communication board. These can be in the plant, in your office area, and what you're communicating is those customer-driven KPIs. and daily production reports. And the ones that I really like, the ones that are very effective, is those daily reports that are being chartered and inputted by the actual frontline people. Because that way they understand the data. Number two, that they are participating in there, so you got more engagement, and they feel part of it, so they have ownership. And if they're trying to achieve some results, you'll probably get better results by them doing it themselves and being a part of it. And that's my experience. And team success. You should really show your team success, because that motivates you, and that motivates your team, and that also encourages that proper behavior. It encourages that culture, the culture you're trying to build. And you can't forget about safety. Matter of fact, safety should be top. Safety results should be displayed. Safety awareness. And it should be sincere. And that's a true indication of how you respect your employees. Next, I want to give you some insight about timing. So let's just imagine that it is November the 31st, 2019, and we are leading a small medical device company that do ventilators. And we are thinking about increasing our, just because we want to, 400% output, because we want to grow and we want to be a world player. So one of the things we can do, I'm going to use this decision tree to show you, is buy a new plant for $3.8 million. We can do it in 2 months, and there's a 40% probability of doing it that way. Or we can do it in 6 months, and it's a 60% probability. So we look at another alternative. Another alternative is taking our existing plant and expanding it at $1.75 million for 3 months with a 20% probability, and for 9 months at an 80% probability. So we look at that, and then we have one more that we think we can do, and we say we could partner with another company, an automaker, at $1 million. We could probably get that done in 1 month at 40% probability, or we can get it done in 3 months at 60%. Well, if we're still in November of 2019, you may say, hey, look, we really don't want to go to an automaker and give them up our technology, so let's just go ahead and go with the existing plant. It's feasible. We got that money. We can do that. But let's put a different time frame. Let's put March 11, 2020. The coronavirus 19 was declared a pandemic. And now we look at that, it's like a no-brainer, right? We can just go to the automaker and say, hey, let's get on board. All the help we can get, right? So this is just a example of, timing. Timing is important. And documentation, too. It's an indication of documentation. Say if we did make that decision prior to November of 2019, and we expanded our plant, then we have justification when March comes, say, why didn't y'all go? Well, here's why we made this decision at that time. It's on paper, it's documented. Now we get to the case study. Okay, we have this ABC Manufacturing launching a new medical generator, and we need to go in there and help them increase their output. Okay, now this case study is based on an actual case study that I was a part of. The names and the data and some of the information has been modified, but the output numbers are going to be real. I left those the same because you don't know what company is, and you need to get a perspective of what we actually did. So we started with our overall project charter. Okay, this is for the whole, and we had our problem statements. statement. ABC manufacturing process could not produce generators at the scheduled daily rate. That's our problem statement. Our goal was the objective was to join with the ABC operating team to improve the quality and production rate of the generators to meet the daily demand of 100 units per day and a stretch goal of 120 units a day. Okay? So we went a little aggressive. So the next thing was to put together our scope. Our scope was to provide the generator manufacturing process, to improve the generator manufacturing process at ABC from raw material received dock to the generator shipping dock. So we're going from dock to dock. That's our scope, okay? And the potential benefits was over $1 billion in gross sales. So this is what our team looked like. We had 2 companies working on this. And what was really good was a generating company that was making this had Lean Six Sigma as their practice. So that makes it better because if you go in a company that don't use Lean Six Sigma, you have to convince them, and you have to work with them. You got to fill up their belief system. Whereas an organization that's already using the tools, it's easy to work with them and bring them, take them to a higher level. Now, what this slide shows is the actual daily shipment the week before my team got there. Okay? This is exactly what we were trying to get 100. They were trying to get 100 units a day. And, this is what this was their outcome that week before we got there. So the first thing we did is we did a value stream map from dot to dot so we would know where to focus. And from that current state value stream map, we found that the functional test line was the area we needed to focus on. I want to show you what that looked like and walk you through that. First, we had final assembly, which had a cycle time of 5 minutes, quantity of 1 station, changeover, no changeover. It was yielding, from the operator's perspective, 100%, and it was 3 shifts, 7 days a week. And then we looked at the next station was the inspection, and the inspection was fell in about 20%, so they had a first-time yield of 80%. So there's a definite disconnect there. The next station was a functional test 1, and we will put down the same information that you would put on a value stream map. And then the next 3 station was additional functional tests, because this was a electronic generator, and we seen that the yields were all bad, okay? And then we had a final inspection. So where would you start? Where should you start? That's the question. So where we start? Quality. You got to get the quality up first. Because if you try to lean it out before you get the quality, all you end up doing is making bad parts faster, okay? And then you're spilling out good parts that you could be using and passing on. So we focus on the quality improvement. And there's another reason why we picked this area in this portion of the line, because their bottleneck, okay? Their bottleneck was functional test number 3. And where their bottleneck is in operation is that's going to determine the pace of the line. So you want to manage your bottleneck. You want to optimize your bottleneck, because that's going to give us our throughput. So what I'm saying is, if we're going to get 100 pieces through this, it's going to be through this part right here, okay? Next, we had to have an action item log, and we had to prioritize it, because we had over, 40-something projects from our initial look. And so we had some project charters within this overall project charters, okay? We had project charters underneath that overall project charter. We had other team leaders. So we had a dynamic, all these teams working together, feeding one direction, the same direction. And we had daily huddles. I mean, I can remember going to huddles on Sunday and Saturday nights and third shift and first shift. And then we had weekly updates with upper management. And we probably used every one of the tools in Lean Six Sigma. I mean, fishbone diagram, Pareto analysis, air proofing. We had to relay out areas, where better flow, make it flow, tech time, DOEs. I don't think there's one tool that we might have left out, So that's part of that team execution and using the right tools. And the results was this. This is tester 4, and it's just showing you the gradual improvement of our quality because we focus so much on quality, and our operators participated and cooperated because we took their input at times when it was valuable and we needed them. So that's in about a month and a half, we were making 100%, 99% in that range. And that led to our goal and exceeding our goal as a team. So that's an example of how you can use team-based execution and decision-making and have great results. So I'd like to thank you. At this time, I'm going to pass it back to Stacy.
Great. Thank you, RC. I've been watching the chat box, and we have a couple questions. So I'm going to ask you the first one of those. Meanwhile, for those of you on the line, please feel free to write in your questions, and I will read them as you send them. So the first one we have, RC, is you talked a lot about DMAIC and other tools. Do you have any advice to help my team make decisions if we're not as far along on the Lean Six Sigma journey as that example company you shared?
Yes, I would, number one, pick one, okay? If you are supplying to a OEM that's using, say, for instance, they're using Toyotas, or if they're using, whoever's your biggest customer, if you want to use what they use, so when they visit your plant, you're using the same tool they're using, that's going to be impressive, number one, because all of them will work, okay? If that's not the case and you're just trying to pick one, I think the DMAIC is the most robust, because you can use it in design and also you can use it in manufacturing. So I hope that answered the question.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, as you know, a lot of us are working in some unusual circumstances right now where some or all of our teams are working virtually, or, we're adjusting shifts so there's not as many people on the floor at once. In your opinion, are there some ways to still make sure that we're using like a team-based decision-making approach even when we're more spread out than usual?
Oh, yeah, that's when you have, as a project leader, okay, you may have to work a little harder, and, if you're spread out and you can't get to, you can't have those teams always meet together, you got to meet in small groups, then you have to be the one that kind of coordinate to the other ones, all right, if you have to do it through the computer, or if you're still going out on the factory floor, you making those visits to those people and then making sure your team is aligned. So it'll be a little rougher under these circumstances, but nothing's easy nowadays in this situation. And I would highly recommend Zoom when you can. You can't do it always with operators, but you can with your professional team.
Thank you. That's a really good point, RC.